Hello and welcome to the demo video for the HR dashboard. This is a spreadsheet that aims to monitor various aspects of your HR and present them all on one dashboard. Now, I do have individual spreadsheets that tackle a lot of these components by themselves and go into a lot more detail than what this spreadsheet does. However, this spreadsheet I wanted to give the option of having various tabs on one spreadsheet, all to monitor different aspects of your HR, all to come onto one dashboard, so that you've got a report that you can print off or save as a PDF or whatever, so that you've got an overview of your HR all in one place. So it doesn't tackle anything into great detail, but it does kind of tackle a lot of aspects. So let's just have a look at the overview of this. This first page is your setup page. I'll go through that in a minute. Then you've got a staff page, which everyone will receive, where you can put your staff details in, and then you've got a dashboard which has got all sorts of information on here. I'll go through this in a minute. You can scroll down, you see all the different colors on the right hand side. So the idea behind this is whatever color down the right hand side of the dashboard is relevant to the different tabs. So this one would be absenteeism, this one would be annual leave, and at the top where it's white, that will always be included. So this first section will be included in your report, and then depending on which components you pick, you may or may not receive these pages depending on the color down the right hand side. Also, these tabs here from annual leave, the red one through to the purple one at the end, performance, those are all of your components. So the first two tabs in this dashboard you'll receive, these are all of the components that are optional. So let me start with Intern Setup as to what you need to do. First and foremost, the first month of the year, so select the month that you're going to start the spreadsheet and put in the year. This spreadsheet will last for 1 year. So what the idea is to when you then start a new year, simply use a new blank template. So keep a blank template of this, reuse it each year. Alternatively, you can just save this one as a new year and just go and clear the data on all of the component tabs. You'll be able to see what needs to be cleared, so you keep the same headings, that kind of thing. But we'll go through page by page. Next thing, working days. Select how you work, Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday. If you do Mondays to Saturdays, those kind of things, and maybe insert Monday to Sunday. What this does is it lets you, this helps you to calculate how many days. So when you say they're all from this date to that date, it'll calculate how many days. You can override them later on. I'll show you that as well. So this, it doesn't matter if this isn't an exact science. Just try and get as close as you can and then make the adjustments later on. And do you work on bank holidays? So you say, if you work on bank holidays, go yes, it'll include them in. If you don't, say no, it'll exclude them. One last thing to do, and this isn't necessary unless you're in a particular year where this happens. If a bank holiday changes, 1st of January, they decide to change to 2nd of January for some strange, obscure reason, simply come here, put in the 1st of January 2020 because that's the year. 1st of January 2020, it recognizes that that's a bank holiday and say that has now moved to the 2nd of January, and that will now take the 1st of January to the 2nd of January. If you put in the 1st of April, 1st of April, which isn't a bank holiday, it says no, that's not a bank holiday. So this is simply if you need to change any bank holidays. If all bank holidays are falling when they ought to, then leave that blank. All right, so that's the Setup tab, and once you've set that one up for the year, you can then go on to your staff and simply put your staff names in: surname, first name. They've got an initial, you don't have to use it. The reason why you would have an initial is if, for argument's sake, you've got 2 John Deeres, it won't let you have that. It says no, you can't, because you've got 2 of the same people. So if you've got maybe a John C. Deere, then it's all right. So you can put the initial in to differentiate between 2 people if they've got the same name. If they've got the same middle name, you might just put 2 initials or something different. If you want to use the middle initial, you can do so. It doesn't matter if you do use it, but you don't have to. start date, when they started working. This could be, this is really mainly just for your information, so you know when they started it, but it has a little bit to do with the spreadsheet. But if it's before before this particular start of this year, it doesn't matter if it started during this year. It's really just to see if they started mid-year. Leave, how many days leave do they have, and how many days leave have they carried over from last year. Now, if you're not using the annual leave component, if you haven't ordered it, you don't necessarily need to fill that in. I've decided to put it on this sheet rather than the annual leave sheet, just so that even if you don't order that component, you still at least got a record of it for your own records. So if you put that in your staff list and keep this list up to date, this list will fuel the rest of the spreadsheet. So how does it do that? Well, let's go through each page at a time, and then each of these different components will fuel the dashboard. But not only that, each of these different component pages have got some interesting things on that will help you, even without the dashboard. The component tabs are quite useful themselves. So let's kick off with the annual leave tab. All right, here's the annual leave tab. All the green headers are automated, so that will come up automatically. This is based on your staff list, so it already knows your staff, it knows the leave, it knows what's been carried over, it knows how many's been used because that's going on over here, and it knows the balance of days that they've got left over. All you need to do here is put on how many days can they carry over. 5.0, obviously you've got 6, 5.5, 3.5, whatever you want to put in there. How many days can they carry over? And then show excess. So what the excess does is if you say yes, it flags up all of those that are standing to lose leave should you get to the end of the year. So I didn't want to have these flagging up all the time, because I mean, if you're in the first month of the year, this is not a problem. This only becomes a problem towards the end of the year. So what I would suggest is when you get towards the end of the year and you want to see who needs to take leave or lose it, you can simply change that show excess to yes, and it'll flag up anybody who is due to lose leave if they don't actually take it. That's it. All you need to do on this page, once you've set those two up, is simply complete this line. And on most of these pages we'll go through, you do need to complete the whole line, so don't leave anything blank. What this is you can come here and select who the person is. When did they start their leave? This is whenever they take leave or whenever they actually apply for leave. So let's just say this guy came on and said for 16th of March to the 20th of March, that would be a Friday, yes. If he's come and put in for leave for that day, now what you can do is you can select the days, and if you select the drop in this, it'll tell you how many days it is. Now this is what's being calculated. I didn't want to have this as an automated, as a calculated cell completely, because then you couldn't override it. I wanted to let you override it. So what I've done is I put the answer, the calculated answer, in a drop down list, so you can simply click that and go, that's the number of days. If, for argument's sake, on that Friday he only wants half a day and it's not 5 days, it's 4.5, then all you do is you simply enter in 4.5, click OK. It'll say the value you've entered does not match the calculated value. You go, yeah, that's fine, and you click OK, and now it only takes 4.5 days. So you can override the number of days if there's different circumstances involved. So do that, obviously check that is correct. And then lastly, the status. So what you do here is you just select requested if the leave's been requested, and then once it's confirmed, you can click confirm, so that you know what the status is of that particular leave. So that's fairly straightforward. You can just complete that as you go along for all your different staff members. Now, if there's a case where you've got a period where the business is closed, you can either come and just simply copy all these staff member names and paste values into here. Remember, if you're copying from the spreadsheet into the spreadsheet, don't use paste values. So if you copy all the names, paste values, put in the first lot of date, copy that, paste values down, and select all the number of days and put confirmed, you can put all your staff for that particular leave. Alternatively, if they all have to take 5 days, just take 5 days off at the beginning when you allocate their leave, whichever way is easier for you, whatever you need to do. So, but that is how you can update the leave, the annual leave part of the spreadsheet. Let's go and have a look at the dashboard. I'll get back to this first bit at the end of the spreadsheet of this video, because that's an overall dashboard once you understand what the dashboard's about. But this is the annual leave section of the dashboard. So what this does is it brings over all sorts of information for you regarding total leave entitlement, how many can be carried over, what's going to be lost if it's not carried over, how many people have taken too much leave, people are due to lose leave, all those kind of information. So you can see here, that's the amount of leave that's still available, that's the amount of leave that can be carried over, this is the leave that's been confirmed already, that is the leave that they can still take, that they still have to take, or they're going to lose it. And the reason why I've shown that is because that's more than likely the minimum amount of leave is still going to be taken this year, and that is what could in theory be carried over to next year. So you've got a breakdown. You've also got a breakdown of the people due to lose leave if not taken, people do not lose leave based on what they've requested, and people have taken all their leave. So you'll see that broken down towards the end of the year. Here as well you can see people are taken by percentage of the leave they've taken, so 0 to 10% or 91 to 100% of their leave, and how many people fall into each category. So you've got another graph there. And if you scroll down here, you can see the number of days as a company, so days requested and confirmed. So overall as a company, these are days that will be taken if not lost, if not taken. That's what can be carried over. You would have some. In fact, if you go back to this and we actually select and change that to requested, then if we go back to the dashboard, we'll see now there's a small part that days requested but not yet confirmed. So that is the leave page. It'll fit nicely on a PDF page if you save as a PDF or print, but that's the leave page for the annual leave. So it's not only this, but the respective page on the dashboard if you take that component. Next, let's get on to the absenteeism component. Alright, so this is the absenteeism component. It's similar to the annual leave, so if you watch that video, this one's fairly similar. The staff members will pop up already because they know who they are from the staff list, and all you need to do is list up to 6 different reasons why someone can be absent and how many days a year you deem as acceptable for that kind of absentee. So for argument's sake, sick leave, how many days do you give? I mean, I don't know what the regulations are, so please don't take these numbers as correct. I've just put in random numbers here. Sick days, how many days a year do you allow for sick days? How many days a year would you allow for unpaid leave? How many days a year would you allow for just being absent, i.e. they don't know what the reason is? Now, normally I would say 0, but I put in 1 to be just diplomatic there. And then compassionate leave. What about compassionate leave? And you can put in up to 6 different leaves. I don't know what you have in your HR policies, but you can put up to 6 different types of leave that people could take, and how many days are acceptable or allowed in that column. And then all you do then is simply, when one person takes any of those particular days, select the person's name, select the start, put in the start date. Now this is what I wanted to show you, 2nd of April. If it's only one day, put in the 2nd of April again. You need to complete the whole line in the spreadsheet. You can't leave anything blank. So put in the person's name, select the start date, select the end date if it was in fact the same day. That will then show you how many days it was. 1, you click 1. You can override it if it's say 0.5, or if it's taking a Saturday into consideration and you said you weren't working Saturdays or something else. And then select which one it was. So if that was compassionate leave, simply select compassionate leave. It's as simple as that. So each time someone's off, just complete that line of 5 items, and that's the job done as far as that's concerned. Let's have a look at the dashboard and see what's going on there. You can see absenteeism. You can see the type of days and how many have been taken, so you can see a breakdown of what types of days are being taken. You can see the number of days and how many of those people have gone, and how many of those are over allowance, how many people have gone over allowance in any of those. So there's 0 people at all, so there's no kind of warnings. Those will turn red if you have someone who goes over the allowance for any of the days. Here you can see the average per person as well as the allowance. So the allowance here is all over the place. That red line will show where the allowance is, so you can see if the average per person actually comes anywhere near the allowance. And then here you've just got a breakdown of all the different days, total taken, average per person, limit, maximum taken, minimum taken, and those averages of the averages a percentage of a limit, so the maximum and the minimum as a percentage of the limit. So you can see, I mean, these are nowhere really. If you scroll down, you can also see absentee days by occurrence regardless of the duration. So what that is if someone's off for 5 days ill, this one here will count it as 5 days because it'll show how many days. This one here is absentee by the number of times. So if this person's off for 5 days, but they're off once in one stretch for 5 days, this will show as 1. So that's why the graphs will differ. So this is the number of times they're off, regardless of how many days they're off for. So that is what that's showing. That's why it's different to the graph at the top, because the graph at the top shows the number of days, not the number of times. And that is the absenteeism tab. So next one we'll get onto the training tab. Alright, here's the training tab. Before we put the names in, let's just start with a number of days warning. This is just how, if you've got a training, the training tab is for things like do your staff need training on a monthly basis or twice a year or once a year or once every 3 years or whatever the case might be. Do they have courses and things that they need to do each year, like a first aid course or whatever else that they need to do to update, to have got the certificate that they need or whatever it might be. This will just help you to remind you when those training when those things need to be done. So how many days warning do you want before something's due? We put in 7. I mean, you might want 30 days, you may want 60 days, depending on how long it takes you to plan. These are all days, not just working days, so just bear that in mind when you put that value in. Then you can name up to 6 different training courses or different types of training that you want to put in there. That's up to you how you categorize that. If you've got loads of different training and you want to categorize them here rather than putting the specific training, if you've only got 4 or 5 training that you need to do, then just put the specific name in here. But then that will then determine these headers. So another thing you need to remember on all these tabs is once you put these in, it'll determine the headers. Once you've filled in information below here, don't go changing these headers, because if you change the headers, it'll change the header here, but this data will still stay the same from the old header. So just bear that in mind if you do change any of the headers. But once you set up the training and you've got the days, no, this you can change at any time. You need to put the people in, but the people are already on the staff setup. So as you can see down left, what I've done for this is there are 5 red blocks there, and those resemble people. So if you click on here, you've got Andrew Smith in the drop down list. If you click on there, you've got Kim Jones in the drop down list. So you can either go through and select each person. Alternatively, what you can do is you can just come here, highlight the red blocks, right click, copy, and paste values. Now they turn green because you got them, and you can see that yellow warning there saying that there were new people has disappeared. If you do come on afterwards and you put in someone else, let me just put me in here. And then you go back to training, you can see that it says new names. Now you've got your new names and you've got me there. So you can now just go, yeah, okay, we select a new person, or you can copy that red block and paste it in here. But once you've done that, we'll disappear. If you come back here to these staff and someone leaves and you remove them and you come back to the training, it'll say missing names. I don't have Richard Sumner anymore. And you go, oh yes, he's gone. And you just simply clear it. So that's how you can do the updating of these particular staff lists. Last date. This is the last date you did any training, any type of training, and how many months until the next one. It's just as simple as that. Now, if Andrew Smith doesn't do training one, just leave it blank. If Kim Jones does do training one, if she hasn't had a last one, that's fine. Just make up a last one based on when the next one's due. So if it's her first one and she needs to have the first one on the 1st of July, for example, and it's every 3 months, then you're going to have April, May, June, July. Yeah, 1st of April, 1st of May, 1st of June, 1st of July. That's 3 months. So you want to put in 1st of April. So if you do 1st of April, and then she says it's late, and you go 3 months, then you can see here the next one is due on the 1st of July. So if it's her first one, do that. Otherwise, just put in the date when she either did or was supposed to have done the last one and how many months, and that will then determine when the next one is. It's as simple as that. And once you've done that, you can then go around and do that. If we say 1st of Jan for this one, it shows as a red, and we say let's do that one for 6 months, then it'll flag up and show 1st of July. Alright, so now that we've got, in fact, let's do that at 8 months or 12 months. No, let's do that at 6 months, but let's start 1st of Feb just to give it in two different months in the report. So that's all you really need to do. Each training, when the person last did it, how many months until the next time they need to do it, and that will then flag up and tell you what has been going on and what's due when, and give you warnings and that kind of thing. Let's go and have a look at the dashboard. Here we go. Different training. The different trainings are different colors. How many you need to be doing each month coming up. So here you can see how many are overdue, but you can also see the next 12 months from where you are now. So this being the current month, next month, you can look 12 months into the future to see what training exercises are coming up. You can also see what training exercises you've done in the last 12 months. So obviously one thing you need to bear in mind is that these figures may be out if you've put in fictitious last done exercises, but it will give you an idea if you look back. The reason why I've done this isn't necessarily a definite this is what's been done, but it gives you an idea of what's been done over the next 12 of the last 12 years as opposed to what needs to be done over the next 12 years. Also, what you've got to bear in mind is this only takes the next date due for each exercise and the last date done. So if you've got to renew a training thing every 3 months, it's not going to show every 3 months in the graph. It's just going to show the last one you did and the next one you need to do. So that's also something to bear in mind. So these aren't necessarily 100%, but what they do is they just show you one of each of the exercises that you've done and one that's coming up. Number of each training session included. So here you can have a look and see there's one training 1, one training 2, 0 training 3. You can see a breakdown of the types of training that you're doing overall. That's all for the training dashboard. So those are just events that you need to do as far as training is concerned. We'll move on to the accreditations. Right, the accreditations. I know I've put in at the beginning of the video the times when each of these different components start, and if you're looking specific for accreditations and come right here, please just accept my apologies and go back to the time when the training started, because the accreditation one is exactly the same as a training module, and I've explained how to get the names here. The only difference is you put in the accreditations here rather than the training names and to determine the headers, but the warnings, the names, the dates. In fact, even on the dashboard, it is exactly the same. I haven't put anything in here, but it is exactly the same as the training one. So if you just pop back to the time for the training, you'll be able to see exactly what to do in the accreditations. And let's move straight on to the discipline component. All right, here we go. Discipline component. Again, these will be brought over from your staff list or the green header, so you don't have to worry about that. all you need to do is list the types, the 6 possible disciplinary actions that you can actually put into that you can have, and also how many of those you are allowed before there's some consequence of sorts. So for argument's sake, you can only have one dismissal, you can't be dismissed twice. But how many hearings can you have? How many written warnings can you have? How many verbal warnings can you have that before you wanted to flag up and go, this is now a problem? So whatever it is you want to put in, you can put the types of disciplinary in here and how many allowed. Now, when I say allowed, you're not necessarily going to let people get up to that point, but how many are allowed before you want to have a serious warning popping up that something needs to be done. Once you've put that in, all you need to do is simply fill in these 3 things, and whoever the person, select the person, select the date, or put in the date rather, and then select which discipline has happened. So if they've got a written warning, pop it in there. And then simply go to, when the next person does whatever the next person's done, simply select that, 2nd of April, say a verbal warning, whatever the case might be. And as you can see, this populates. It shows when the last one was, and it shows how many they've had in total. You'll see warnings pop up if they hit one of the allowance limits. But that's all you need to do on this page, is simply do those 3 things every time one of these actions are taken. What does the dashboard do? Well, the dashboard gives you a breakdown of the month of the year and what disciplines have been dished out on each of those months over the year. It actually shows you last year and this year. Now, normally you would only put in things that have happened this year, but we realize that you may want to carry over some of these from year to year, if that's even legal. I don't know. You need to ask if you're HR, you need to find out what it can be carried over. But sometimes it's not actually per year, but it's over the last however many months, and you may want to carry stuff over from the last year. So if you copy that data and paste values into the new year, when you start a new spreadsheet, you can carry it over. So I've specifically had this report showing the last year and this year as to where all these things have happened. Again, you can see a breakdown overall of which kind of disciplinary actions have been given, and you can also see here the maximum of each disciplinary action for an individual compared to the maximum allowed. So you can see whether the maximum for any person ever goes over the maximum allowance for any of those disciplinary actions. And here you can just see a breakdown of the different number issued, maximum to 1 person, allowed, maximum as percentage, and the last one issued. So that's just a report for your disciplinary actions. So the next page, the next component that we're going to have a look at, is the locations dashboard, the locations component. So let's take a look at that. Right, here's the locations tab. Excuse me. This is about where people are working. Now, I know there are detailed studies as to what this does as far as how much time spent at each desk and all that kind of thing. I've made spreadsheets for that industry. This is not it. This is just a very, very simple overview of where your staff are working, just so that you know what's being used and what's not. So all you do, much like some of the other ones, you need to get your staff in here. It's because it says there are new names, i.e. staff that you've got on your staff list that are missing from the spreadsheet. So you can either go down and select each one, or you can come here and copy the red blocks, right click, copy, paste values, and boom, they turn green. If you add a new person to your staff list, you'll see another red block here, and it'll say new names. You can either select, so any red blocks are new staff, either select the name or copy and paste values across. Once you've got your staff, then what you do is, first of all, put in the percentage of how much they work. So take the person who works the longest hours, the most time, and go, they work 100%, and then what does everyone else work based on that? So if Kim works the same hours, put in 100%. If Sean only works half the hours, just put in 50%. Maybe Michelle works 80% of that time, and John works 80% of the time as well. So you put in what percentage of the time they're working, and then simply put down a percentage to each of the locations. So if they're working 50% in the office 1 and 50% in office 2, and this person's working 80% in office 1 and 20% in the vehicles, and maybe this person's working 50% in office 1 and 50% at home, and this person's working 50% at office 2 and 50% at home, and this person's working 100% at home, then make sure they all tally up to 100%. That's all. So here you can see the percentage that they're actually working. So for argument's sake, if this person's working 50% of the time but 50% office 1, it puts 25% down to office 1. So that's all you need to do. You can change this as you go along. You can update it, all the rest of it. As long as these tally up to 100%, that's all you really need to worry about. And if you go to the dashboard, you'll see it's disciplinary. If you go to the dashboard, here we go, you'll see your locations dashboard, and you'll be able to see where percentage, where people are actually working, where the majority of the work's being done, what's actually happening. You can see a breakdown of where the time, all the time is spent, and you can also see the number of people at each location, even for a while. So how many people worked, how many people at office 2 and all the rest of it, even for a short while. So you could just see a breakdown of where your staff are, what's happening, what's being used, that kind of thing. It's not the most detailed thing ever, but it's, oh, there you go, locations. It is quite a useful thing to have if you've got various sites and you want to see where your people actually are. Let's move on to the cost to company. All right, cost to company. Same as some of the others. Those red blocks there mean that you've got staff names available, and those, that tells you you've got new names. So you can either go down and select them, or simply come here, right click, copy, right click, paste values, not normal paste, well, not normal paste, paste values. All right, and then you've got the green to tell you that you've got those staff and their current and all the rest of it. All you need to do here is put in the salaries. So I don't know who's earning what. If you've got 40,000, 30,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, and then you can select you can put in departments. So there's nothing in the drop down list, but when you add one, like for example, if you put in here management, then management will be in well, it's not 3,000. Management will be in the drop down list. But now you can add in another one, for example, and go sales, and then admin, and then you've got those ones in the drop down list again, so you can select them. So the idea is, if you need to add a new one, add it on. If you've already put someone in that department, you want to put someone else, then just click it on the drop down list. And then all you need to do here is you can assign here percentages of the different costs, PAY, pension, whatever other percentage costs you've got, and then you've got fixed values. So you can go PAY and then just simply select the percentage for each person. Alternatively, the reason why I've put it like that, not just the tick box, is because you may need to override the percentage for certain people, depending on what the story is. So if you do need to override it, you can override the percentage. Otherwise, just go down and click that. Remember, if you do it once and you've got 200 staff and you don't want to sit clicking it 200 times, then just simply come here, right click, copy, scroll down, right click, paste values, job done. And then you can put in fixed values, so things like laptops, and I don't know, if you put in your £400 for a laptop and £200 for a phone, and I don't know, whatever else you want to put in, £400. You can go and you can basically type in whatever items there are, but this is an annual fixed fee, so the annual fee. So if you're getting them a laptop and it's going to last them 5 years, whatever, just put a fifth of the price down per year, so you get a more accurate cost to company, and that will give you the total cost to the company over there. But not only that, you've got the dashboard. So if you fill that in accurately, you go to the dashboard, you can now see a breakdown of your costs by department. You can see a breakdown of what your actual costs are, salary, PAY, pension, all those other kinds of things. You can also come down here, you can see per department, how many staff, total cost average per person, the percentage, and you can see a breakdown of the costs and what those are as an average. And then you can also come down here and you can see the breakdown of average cost to company per department. So each department will have a breakdown of the costs, and you'll see yeah, obviously if you have too many departments it won't show all of them, but it will show the top ones. And that is it. So that's a nice breakdown of your cost to company. And we can move on to the performance. All right, performance, again, copy these red blocks here because you've got some staff outstanding. Copy, paste values. If you add new staff on, this will turn red. You can select the new staff from the drop down list, or re-copy and paste values again. And then all you need to do each month of the year is you can give people a score here. So the top score, the next score down, the middle one, poor, bad, whatever. As you can see, it goes from green through to red down at the bottom. So put in your description for each of those different rankings, and then each month simply come in and select what they were that month. So this isn't necessarily rocket science. It's not a 360 staff appraisal or anything like that. I've got spreadsheets to do that, but all this is just you as a manager or as an HR person or whoever, if you've got report back from the people's direct managers, that kind of thing, coming in and putting in just one rating for the person for each month of the year. Now, I'm not going to do everyone. In fact, I don't want everyone to be the same necessarily, but what I'll do is I'll copy and I'll paste those values down there. You get the idea, and let's just go around and change a few of them just to make sure that we've got all these things going on here, so that you can see some kind of variance on the graph that we'll go to later on. Let's put someone who's been bad one month. Alright, so let's change one more for good measure, and then we can go to see what the report says. So let's go to the dashboard. Here you can see your performance, so your average staff ranking per month. So you can see the average ranking per month, so you can see which months your staff were particularly low or which ones are higher, because this is also quite useful if you do things like incentives or company days out or something like that, and you can actually see is the performance better on the months where they've promised something, or whatever the case might be. It might be handy to know. So you can see the average staff ranking per month. You can also scroll down to a complete breakdown of each score, how many of each score you've had here. You can scroll down and see the average, the minimum ranking, and what was the maximum ranking in each month. So you can see what's going on. And here it's the same as the top graph, but instead of giving the average, it gives you the maximum and the minimum. So here you can see your minimum was in the yellow, which was poor, and your maximum was in the green. Here's one even worse, red and green. So you got your maximum was brilliant, but your minimum was bad in this month here in September 2020. So you've got that breakdown. And that is the end of the report and the end of all of the components. So let's just do a very quick recap, and then I'll show you one last thing on the report. Remember at the beginning, set it up, put in your staff names and the details here. That will then fuel the rest of the spreadsheet. And then each of these different components, you can choose which ones you've got, and each different component is shown by the color down the right hand side. What we've got here at the top is an overview of all the different components. Now, if you haven't ordered, for example, you haven't ordered the absenteeism component, this will still be here. It'll just say that it doesn't have any data. But here on the first page of the report, you've got a breakdown of each of these different reports. And you've got a red element, a yellow element, and a green element. Red element is obviously cause for concern, and you can read there what that is for each one. They're all different. There's a yellow element, which is mild cause for concern, and you can read there what it is. Again, for each of these ones, they're different. And then you can read what the green one is as well, and they're all different. So they all show a score as a percentage. That one doesn't have anything because we didn't put any data in. The only one that's different is the cost to company, where that's not really red, yellow, green. It just gives you those 3 different values. But again, you can see there what those values are. So that's just a cover page, just to show you an overview of all the components that you've got. Remember, you get to choose which components you need. And that's all we've got time for. I think that is everything. Yeah, have a look at the Intern Setup tab. There is a link here. Where is it? There we go. How to keep your spreadsheets working properly. Have a look at that. That'll show you some do's and don'ts. But other than that, I think I've explained everything. If you really get stuck, drop me an email and let me know what you need, and I will endeavor to answer your questions. So yeah, I think that's it. If you are using this HR dashboard, I really do think it's a great product, and I really hope that it helps you and gives you a good overview of your HR. And I wish you all the best. Thank you and goodbye.